Break No Chaser show on intellectualradio.com, an iHeart radio station. This is your host, Rhea Ray Harris, and I'm so glad to be with you this evening. Before we get started with tonight's show, I wanted to make an announcement. Last October, we had a show based on Byron Lipscomb, who was in desperate need of a kidney transplant. He still has not received that gift, and he goes to dialysis 2 to 4 times a week, and it's been a very long and tenuous situation, and it is taking a toll, if you will, not just on his physical health, but on his spirit. And so I'm asking anyone who has in their heart to get tested to see if they are a kidney match, to contact Kathy Davis, the RN at the Living Kidney Donor Nurse Coordinator Center at the University of Chicago at 773-834-2228, because it's important. Sometimes we give lip service. Now I'm asking us to give a kidney, literally. And you don't understand how much it means to someone to have what is, for him, the gift of life. So I wanted to say that, and I will probably mention it again today because it's been a really bad weekend for Byron, and I want him to know that we are in full support of his healing and recovery, definitely. Tonight's show is about primarily the battle to end childhood cancers. I can speak from personal experience. In 2008, I had a friend whose son was at the University of Chicago and had been diagnosed with cancer 2 years preceding. It metastasized from the bones throughout his body, and I was there when he died. And to watch this young man who had just turned 15 in July, he died early September, struggling for his last breath was one of the most traumatic things I'd ever seen in my life. And knowing that prior to that day, the struggle that he endured to stay upbeat, to still go to school, because he was attending school until he got desperately ill over that summer. And just, he was a hero. But you just wish that something more could have been done to extend, if not save, his life. So I am here with Liz Chazen. She is a healer, literally. Now, I don't know if you all could see it beforehand, but she actually held my hand, and I could feel the vibrations of energy coming from her to me. So I'm going to let her tell you exactly what she does and exactly the title, as we love titles, of that. And then we're going to talk a little more about childhood cancers and some other things that she is now currently involved with helping to heal.
Thanks,
Liz?
Rhea. I'm a Lane of Hands energy healer. I started working with energy about 18 years ago when I had an experience where I touched someone randomly. I felt a vibration running through my body. It was out of nowhere, literally, and I put my hands on this woman, and after I took my hands off, she got up and walked in the room. Everyone yelped, screamed, because she was incapable of walking.
Wow.
And I was taken aback, and quite...
That's a mild way.
But very much, I actually left. I left quite quickly, and I got home, and I started, just going through this New Age magazine, and someone said, "What are you doing with that?" And I said, "Something happened to me today, and I know it's in here." And I turned a page, and I saw this woman's face. Her name is Rosalind Bruyere. She's a very well-known and medically researched energy healer. And I said, I'm going to go see her. This was 1994. And I've been studying with her ever since. So that's 20 years.
Shh, don't tell people. No, I'm just kidding. We are proud of our age and what we've accomplished.
I'm proud of my age. I'm 52 years old. I was 32 when I started. And I started, and when I started, I knew nothing. I didn't know what a chakra was. I didn't know what energy was. I knew nothing. And in this first class, I was just like, what in the world is she talking about? And she came up to me and touched me the way I just touched you, and I went, oh my God, this is real. And so I can't say that at that point I dedicated my life to doing it, but I wanted to know more and know more and know more. And then as it progressed, and I can tell you this, I have a profound love for people and for children and for people to experience their life in the most, whatever it is that they want to express, whatever it is that they want to, what they want to do, instead of being thwarted or having an illness. I had found that this, what's running through my body, does. The best thing I can say is that you're an energy field, and you have a habit of energy, the way you live and what you do and what you think. So what happens is there's this frequency, as you felt, that runs through my body. You have these energy centers. Actually, they're everywhere. Wherever you have a jointed area, you have a little energy center, but most people know these 7 main centers. And what I've been trained to do was to match frequency and enhance whatever it is you. So when a child has cancer, there's certain frequencies, vibrations that are missing, and I've been taught to make what we'll call the red frequency. It's not the easiest frequency to make. It's not one that, I tend to make a lot of purple and a lot of blue, so I have to really get grounded in this intensity to run this red energy. Yeah, go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
Because we're going to go very slow for people like me who are in, as I call them, the cheap sheets. Tell me what the different colors of energy mean.
Well, what I can tell you about the energy centers is your first chakra would be red. It's life force. Your second chakra, which is around your belly button, orange. It's your emotional center. It's where, and right behind your belly button is where you do all of your absorption. So it's your intestinal area. So what we know about your intestines is that many of your neurotransmitters are made there, and it's also the seat of your immunity. So orange is half red. The next energy center up is the third chakra, which is yellow, which we would call intellect. We give it the intellect as its notation because your stomach breaks everything down. So literally, in your intellect, you take in information, you break things down so you can understand them. So you have this whole huge area right in your middle. You have your pancreas, you have your liver, you have your gallbladder, you have your stomach. All of that's involved in digestion. And up from there, you have your heart. And you always hear about having a change of heart, or that it has to go into your heart, or how you connect with other people is through your heart. But in the heart center, everything changes. The old blood goes up and becomes renewed through what? Your breath. So your heart is not only your heart chakra is your breathing. And so from my point of view, I always call breath one with the divine. So literally every breath you take is you taking in something of God and spirit, and every breath is there to transform you, give you that connection back to the divine, whatever you may call the universal.
What color is it?
Green.
Okay.
Green is the color of change.
All right.
So, and then your fifth chakra, your throat, is blue. And the blue, when you say it came out of the blue, it's expression. Your place is blue. It's all about expressing. So half of your heart is blue, this expression, this beingness, and the way you think. So your sixth chakra is purple. So it's blue and it's red. And so in this mix is insight. It's the chakra, the energy center where you take in. It's also, so your second chakra is an emotional area, how you feel. Your heart chakra is how you and another feel. And your sixth chakra is you in this whole universe. And then you have this release known as your crown chakra, that release that up to the heavens and then all the way around your body. And so if you have all of these frequencies happening at once, and if you notice they are the color of the rainbow,
yes,
you make white light. So what happens through our habits and the way we live and the way we eat and whatever, all of life, we tend to kind of not have as much of one flavor of a color than the other. So people tend to overthink everything. And then what happens is they don't have enough life force to counteract their red energy to get to their emotions. So pretty soon the whole body kind of turns a little yellowy. And so instead of feeling with their heart, they're thinking with their heart. Instead of really taking in, they're overthinking. And what happens then is
You're almost out of tune.
you are so out of tune and you're so disconnected. And so what happens then is that in cancer in particular, you're not making enough of a certain frequency. One of the things I did at children in the beginning was work with leukemia. And leukemia, being a blood cancer, was one of the cancers that I had a lot of success with, because I would run a lot of this red, juicy, heated energy. The energy that I ran into you is kind of just more of a blue with some purple in it. But when I get to that red, which will all of a sudden there's this like whoa in the body, and at the same time the body goes into this profound state of relaxation. When we were studying energy healing at Children's Memorial, we were using something called the heart rate variability monitor, and what it was testing was whether or not an energy healer could get a child into what's called the parasympathetic rhythm. Because what we know is that when a child or any person is in the parasympathetic nervous wave, that their body starts to go into regeneration. Literally, everything starts working better. So in your nervous system, you have the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. The sympathetic is flight, or freeze, which means you're either going to hit somebody, you're going to get scared, or you're just going to, you're going to run away.
Right.
So if you're nervous and upset, and let's face it, when you find out your child has cancer, or the person themselves finds out they have cancer. I worked on 3 people yesterday who had cancer, and one of them it's shown that her tumor, she has lung cancer, her tumor size had increased. She was undone. And when I would run my hand over her, because you can start to feel the energy field around a person, you could feel that there was this whoosh feeling, she's losing energy. And I said, just at first to calm her down, I said, sometimes this happens at a certain point. I go, look, it's not metastasized anywhere else. There's still a lot of options. And you start there, oh, okay. Start to run energy at the bottom of her feet first to get her grounded, and then at her hips to give her that red energy, that filling that pelvic area full of energy. She left there feeling much better, revived, and it's like, and in a sense I said, let me know what other forms of chemo, what other drugs that they want to put you through, and I let them know that I'm going to be there with them throughout the whole process. But what they do is they lose a lot of energy, and so what I do is I try to see all my cancer patients at least once to twice a week.
We're going to hold on right there because I'm going to read the top 5 pediatric cancers.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, outside of that one experience, when I wake up in the middle of the night, because I'm a person that wakes up at like 2 in the morning, there are 3 consistent commercials. One for the poor children somewhere in the universe, but not in America. One for the rehab center for substance abuse, and then one for childhood cancer. Right. So I see this every morning. I don't care if it's 2 or 3 o'clock, somewhere in there. I see those 3 commercials, and it doesn't matter what channel. I'm always amazed. I always try to change the channel, and it still comes on. But when you see the St. Jude's commercials, you see the children, and like you said, you also see the parents.
Yeah.
And the parents are actually more torn apart than the children.
Yeah.
So it's very traumatic as a parent for me to even look at it, but I see it every morning, and I just pray for them, and I just pray that everything turns out well, and for those children that are on the commercial, that they are already done. That this is an old commercial, and that they're healed, and that they're fine. But the first one is acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which they said the symptoms are bone and joint pain, fatigue, weakness, bleeding, fever, and weight loss. So as a parent, our children complain a lot, oh, my head, oh, my stomach. But if something is consistent and they're telling you, I don't feel well, and there are certain symptoms that they keep repeating, pay attention, because it may be more than just they don't want to go to school today. The second one, oddly enough, I thought was brain tumors.
I worked on that too quite a bit. Leukemia and brain tumors.
Oh,
And the next one you have too. Those are the three main that I worked on.
Okay, and the symptoms for brain tumors are headaches, dizziness, balance problems, vision, hearing, or speech problems, and frequent vomiting. Do not think little Johnny's just clumsy. Have little Johnny get tested. Number 3, neuroblastoma, which the symptoms are impaired ability to walk, changes in eyes, which will be either bulging, dark circles, or droopy eyelids that were not present prior, pain in various locations of the body, diarrhea, and high blood pressure. And I know high blood pressure can manifest also with headaches, because with your pressure elevating, sometimes it does affect, like my mother has high blood pressure, she gets tremendous headaches at a point when it gets so high. So again, pay attention to what your child is saying. Number 4, Wilms tumor, which is pediatric kidney cancer. And the symptoms are swelling or lumps in the belly, fever, pain, and nausea. And number 5 is lymphoma, which are cancers that affect the lymph nodes and other lymph tissues like the tonsils or the thymus. And the symptoms are the swollen lymph nodes in the neck, armpit, or groin, weight loss, fever, sweats, and weakness. Now, for those that are not really familiar with energy healing, because there's always been a debate to me in the medical community between a holistic approach and the Western medicinal approach. Talk to me a little more about the marriage, if you will, of the two.
Well, I've always considered myself complementary medicine, not alternative medicine. So I've always worked along with medicine. When I first started at Children's, and I will tell you how it started without naming names, there was a chaplain at Children's Memorial who was also just beginning to study with my teacher, Rosen Bruyere, and she had convinced a physician there to let me come in. She was so believed in this, and this was in 2000, so believed in this, but it was by the whole medical community there, you've got to be kidding. So she talked this one doctor in, and the little girl had leukemia. And the doctor said, well, as the rules go. Now, we broke a few rules. That's why I'm not naming any names, because, sometimes
rules are meant to be broken.
That's right. So the doctor said to the chaplain, let the mother say that this woman, me, is her friend, because we can't deny a friend. And then he says, and I won't get in that much trouble. This child will not survive the night. That's how far gone she was. I'm going to preempt the whole story with saying that child went home in 2 weeks in full remission.
Awesome.
Awesome is right.
Awesome.
So that happened, and the doctor said to the chaplain, bring her back, because this has to be coincidental. He takes me to another child, and at this time, I'm doing energy healing, but I don't know a lot. I know more now than I did, 14 years ago. And he says, well, Liz, it's not viral, it's not bacterial, and it's not fungal. I said, okay, what is it? He goes, it means I don't know. I went, oh, well, what's going to happen? He goes, she's dying.
And that's all we do know at this point.
That's all we know is she's dying. And that's all I have. I don't know how to tell you. That's all I have to hear. Because there's a little twinge through my whole body that says no death, especially for a child. So I do what I do on this child. She went home. She lived.
So that's
two. They took me to a third. That child lived. Now three for three. And the doctor's saying, this is ridiculous. So what he's also...
This is no longer a coincidence.
This is no longer a coincidence. So what he did was he was also a professor at Northwestern University Medical School. So what he put together was a proto-study to prove or disprove energy healing. It was really designed to disprove it. I didn't know that at the time because I didn't know much about science. So what he did was he took a plate of epithelial cells and he wounded them. I see them up on the computer screen. They were whole, and then now they're this far apart. He says to me, Liz, in 3 hours, these cells will go from here to here Always, statistically, it never changes. It will go from here to here in 3 hours. Never, ever does it change. Hence, we know how fast an incision will heal. Okay, what am I going to do? Because I want to see if anything changes. Okay. So I go in every hour for 10 minutes. I have to stand at this, and there's this whole setup so my body heat, my breath, moisture won't affect these cells. And I can't touch them because it's a plate of cells. My hands are like this. I go in, and for 10 minutes, I'm running. I'm not moving. I'm just, this is, by the way,
Running the energy.
yeah, energy healing makes bad TV because it does. I mean, you felt it, but it doesn't look like anything to anybody who's watching it. So I do this, and I go back and sit in this cubicle, and I'm thinking, I can't believe I'm sitting here for 4 hours to do this, and because I'm also an artist painter, and I'm thinking of everything I needed to do that day.
I had such visions for the sun today. Yes,
exactly.
I understand.
So at 1 hour mark, they take the lab assistant takes a picture of the cells, and I'm in this locked little room, and I hear a scream, "Oh my God, this isn't possible!" And I hear the doctor say, "Be quiet, she's not supposed to know. She's a test subject." And I said, "I hear you in there. What happened?" and he comes in, he says, "This is an XYZ type of study. You are the test subject. You're not supposed to know anything." Okay, fine. So I go through the next 4 hours. I walk out of there, and he looked at me with kind of strangeness and a little contempt. He says, "What did you do?" I went, "Well, I did what you told me to do." And the other person they had tested, a different person who was an energy healer, has tears in her eyes, says, "What did you do?" I went, "Uh-oh." I said, "What happened?" He looked at me and he said, "Your cell's completely healed after 1 hour. That's medically impossible. What did you do?" And her cells did exactly, the other person's cells did exactly what statistically always happens. And so I've turned to her first and said, "I will teach you everything I know." Because the woman wants to be a healer. She wants to be effective. This isn't about me being better than anyone else. And I did. I taught this woman everything she could possibly carry. Because you can only carry so much. You actually have to get stronger and bigger to carry more. So I would teach that to her too. So at the long end of it, he looked at me and he says, "You have absolutely no credentials for me to hire you in a hospital. What am I going to do?" And I said, "I have sick people lined out my front door. Because he was like perturbed. And he says, "I'm going to give you credentials you don't deserve." And I said, "Dude, I'm only here for the kids." I said, "That's all I care about." I said, "You know what? I'm not here for credentials. I'm not here for a position. These kids are sick and I can make a difference, and you want to study it? I'm in." They found a way to hire me, and I stayed there for 6 years. It was called the Integrative Medicine Initiative at Children's Memorial. It was a funded 6-year research project, and at the end, it went clinical. It meant that we got results that meant it's a viable service to have in a hospital.
And it's, as you said, a complementary service.
Yes.
So, because I was reading the treatments, which my father passed from cancer. It will be actually 10 years next month.
Mm-hmm.
And I was with him during chemotherapy. He did not do radiation. And I'm here to tell anyone, depending on your body strength and the way you respond to medication will determine how chemotherapy affects you.
It's true.
And he was more okay than I thought he would be. And I was grateful. The only thing that happened was his hair thinned a little. He was very perturbed about that. But he was not ill. Whereas there were other people there that were very ill and were almost to the point where they said that the disease was less of a nuisance and a pain than the treatment. They felt like the treatment was killing them. Whereas he was like, well, we'll sit here for a while and then we're going back home. So I knew it was partially the frame of mind, partially the state of his physical health. But when you have this as an alternative, which is the energy from someone who is a healer, to me that would definitely lend to a more cohesive
It does.
treatment. And we're going to take not a real break, but the Chicagoland Business Clap and Smack Break. As people know, I go to a lot of different businesses in a lot of different communities, not in search of a particular treatment, except good treatment. Sometimes I get great treatment, sometimes it's average, sometimes it's horrible. So today's clap is the BP gas station on the corner of 35th and King Drive in Chicago. Why? Because in a neighborhood that is not always safe or clean, it was both. And everything worked. And it sounds like small stuff, but when you're in other areas, which is where the smack will come in, you go, Now, I went there this week, and I went there last week because I don't go just once, and I've been a few times before that. Anytime there is any kind of commotion, they call the police. They don't wait for things to get out of hand. They don't wait for any drama. They call the police. And as a person who doesn't want to be the collateral damage, I appreciate that. So for that, the BP on the corner of 35th and King Drive in Chicago gets the clap. The smack goes to the Marathon on the corner of 47th and Michigan. There's no way a 24-hour gas station, which not just deals with gas, but also deals with food and incidentals, etc. So you are making money literally 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You accept link cards and everything else. You should not have the credit card option taped up so it looks like someone actually is stealing your credit card number behind there. Then it doesn't work. Then you have to go into the station. Then they tell you, oh, well, just bring your money or whatever in. And it's a whole ordeal. And when you spend that much money, as I know that particular neighborhood spends in that area, because Bronzeville is in a food desert, so that is one of the places that they use to buy actual food, that you should accept that they don't feel like they have to give you a properly running gas tank. It's dangerous and it's illegal. You should not go into a store whose, this is just basic to me, floor is dirty and sticky. That's unsanitary. And if you're spending your money there, we shouldn't have to have this type of conversation, because you should demand to be treated in a way that you deserve. So for that, the Marathon on the corner of 47th and Michigan gets the smack. Now, let's continue with our conversation. I did not know until today, excuse me, that the second highest death rate for children is cancer, only surpassed by accidents. When you know those figures and having the passion you have, how do you maintain you?
Well, I will tell you, my first few weeks at Children's Memorial, and I know my husband could attest to this too, he's right over there, is one of the things I did was this. I said to myself, if my child were sick, what would I want my caregiver to be like? And I made sure that I was that person, that I was available both emotionally and mentally and spiritually and physically, that I didn't wall myself off, that I wasn't a person that was like, and then just moved away. I was as present as I could be. People would say to me, well, did you protect yourself? I said, absolutely not. I had to take these children and their families fully in. I would leave the building composed, get in my car, and I would cry. It would hit me like, whoa, what the full force of what these families were going through. And in the beginning of our protocol, it was the children. And I would look over at these parents and went, oh my God, they are absolutely undone. no energy, nothing. But they are the first line of defense and protection for their children. So I talked to the people who had written up the program, because I wasn't the person that I was basically the person doing the work. And I said, what I'd like to have written in the protocol that we have, that we can also offer the service to their parents and or to whoever else that they brought with them to stay in the room. So their brothers or their sisters, aunts, uncles, whoever was going to be there, because they literally are radiating forces. And what a lot of people don't know, what happens at children, is that usually that mother never leaves the room. She sits on the chair. She follows what she may go down to get something to drink and will be right back, or someone will bring something up to her. She is exhausted. And sometimes it's the father. I remember the child had died, and this father literally beat the doctor, and the doctor did nothing to stop this man because he knew. I can tell you that pediatricians are some of the most special, unbelievable physicians in this world. What people never saw were there are these little rooms off to the side that only staff would go to, and you would see doctors crying, you would see nurses crying, you would see, and I'll never forget what even started this whole program was the doctor that I ended up who supervised me said, listen, if there's something else that could help these children, he goes, I just give them injections. I do this and this and this and this is, and then we sit and wait. And if there's something else that can be done that would help. Now, did any of them understand it? No. One of the driving forces at Children's Memorial would be is that, like, on the intensive care floor where I also would work, and parents would sign their children up.
Okay.
I couldn't just go to anybody. So what would happen would be I would be in this room, and right next is a child with the same disease, but there's one nurse, one child. And the other nurse says, your patient's gotten better. Well, we have the energy healers coming. Oh. Nurse talks to you need to sign your kid up for this program. So what ended up happening is, the doctors were like, I don't know about this, right? You would have the nurses were driving it through the hospital because they, as the daily minute-to-minute caregiver for that child,
all of it all the time.
There was a little guy. I don't know. He was a newborn, and they called it failure to self-organize. And I'm like, well, what's that? And they said, doesn't suck, doesn't breathe, doesn't poop. Okay. Is there anything you could do? Well, he had a little binky it was like the top of a bottle. It was very tiny. It was only like this long. And I stuck a finger in the hole that was in. So my finger wasn't in his mouth, but it was inside of the nipple.
Right.
And I put one hand here. And then my other finger could literally touch his little toes. I ran zip, 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 5 minutes. I come back. So I'm going to see this baby now every day because now he's on my list. And the nurse she's smiling. She says, my baby's sucking, breathing, and pooping. What did you do? And I said, who cares? It worked.
Now, was it just you? Were you the only energy healer?
In the beginning, I was the only energy healer. And so then what happened was we needed more. So who I brought in I also was teaching an energy healing class at my house. And this woman was also one of Rosalind Bruyer's students. Her name is Suzanne O'Brien. So I brought in Suzanne O'Brien. And then what happened at Children's Memorial, they opened it up to any staff member that wanted to learn energy healing. So every Wednesday, I taught a class on energy healing and energy practices for any interested person. So they wanted to know what was going on. So then I started teaching it there. And so people were interested. You're talking about a group of people that you don't work there unless you love children. You go there, you're dressed up in weird clothing. You got puppies on there. I learned at that time whatever TV show was on with kids so you could converse with them. What I don't do, there's energy healing types where they will talk to you about your issues. I don't do that. I would talk about the pink clothes you had on, sports stuff, what was on TV, video games. So when I tell you that I'm an energy healer, it's all through the touch. Not through me guiding you through thinking differently. We left that to the psych department. That's their job. And you're talking about people's precious children. There's no part of me that's going to ask them questions, as if their thoughts or their emotions cause their disease. And there's a big movement out there for that.
Is it?
Yeah,
because that's not practical to me. When I looked
it's
at
not
the children's cancer rate, they talked about how there's nothing typically in their lifestyle that, unlike adults who smoke perhaps or have had, other exposures,
Right.
have created some situations. The children don't have that.
What children have, unfortunately, and there's something we can do to a certain degree, it's pollution. So what happens is that, none of us really know what we're breathing in, what we're drinking, or what we're eating. We hope for the best. And, I was working with a woman with breast cancer, and she wanted to know what she had done to cause that. And I said, well, let's take a step back. Okay, and I know that there are schools of energy healing out there that talk about, the way you think and the way you believe. It might be a very small component, meaning you may be so negative in your thinking you've compromised your immune system a little bit. Because we know that, if you, like you said, your father's attitude, it was helpful. But did it cure his cancer or did it make it worse? You're talking about something very, very minute. Literally, it's bigger. It has a more physical issue. I would work with babies that were born with brain tumors. We would sit back and go, you'd walk out of the room and go, how in the world did that happen?
Right, they said that there's something in the DNA, a genetic mutation.
Right.
And there's nothing that could have been done to prevent it, in most cases.
I'm going to say, we can go to smoking, and you can say that, if you're going to smoke and if you're going to drink, you're impairing your immune system. Literally, one of the things about this frequency that I'm talking about, what you felt that moved through my hand, has a lot to do with making more of the frequency that causes your cells to multiply and divide off of its genetic material that it's supposed to, not become an aberration. That's what energy is about. So your field effect, so there it is. It's your thoughts, your feelings, your being, and everything you do affects you. But this physical part, your physical part is, I'll say this sometimes because people will take a rock or a crystal and say, this is going to heal me. And I'll say, it does have a frequency, but you're bigger than a rock. And you're bigger than a crystal. But if it helps you focus your energy and you feel something from it, use it, fine. But you are the magic. You and your energy system and your connection to the divine. I'm a very prayerful person. When you ask me what I would do, here's what I did. When I literally was hit with what was happening there, the devastation, I looked and said, there has to be something, some god or goddess, divine being that said they promised to heal children. I found her, the Lady of Guadalupe. I'm neither Hispanic nor am I Catholic, and I did not care. I said I would pray to any available deity that said they would help children. So I go to my integrative team and I said, listen, this is what I found. And we're talking about people dedicated to kids. And it was like, we'll pray to her. No, I had the chaplains praying to the Lady of Guadalupe because she promised to heal children. And we had done so much prayer work as a group. I walked into a room and there was a woman there who was from Mexico. And she went, oh, I see the familiar. She just looked at us. She goes, I see the Lady of Guadalupe standing behind you. Now we're looking, we don't see her, but that's okay. She did. And we were like, you may touch my child. We would have things like that happen to us. Now I know that runs into the mystical and the divine, but when you're dealing with such severe illness, I'm a big prayer person. I pray for people all the time. I have a list of people that I pray for. I go on Facebook, and when someone brings up their child, I will message them and say, would you mind if I started praying for your child? This is what I do. And they're like, for sure. I've never had anyone turn me down. I don't ask for anything in return.
And I would be stunned if anyone did. We're going to take one more break for what is our Game Changer segment. What I do every week, pretty much, is find, typically along the topic lines, the game changer. Sometimes it's a good one. Sometimes it's a
Okay.
not so good one. This one actually is a good one. This is about Henrietta Lacks. I read her autobiography. Her biography, excuse me. She is a rural black woman, uneducated, who felt a lump. And at the time, the only hospital that would treat her in the area was Johns Hopkins because they were in a segregated
Sure.
world, basically. And they cultured her cells. They found out she had cancer. She was the first known human to have given the immortal cells, which led to the studies
Wow.
of cancer even today. Her cells are called HeLa. They are still around today. And up until then, everyone else's cells that they had tried to culture had died off. Hers multiplied to the point that they were literally shipping them around the world.
Wow.
So today's game changer is Henrietta Lacks, whose immortal cancer cells helped the study of and the development of treatment for what we now know to be cancer. So that is our game changer. And it ties into what we're talking about today. I want you to tell those people who are interested in energy healing and don't know what to do to firstly assess if that is a gift, because I do believe that some of us have certain gifts and some of us just don't. And it's okay.
Exactly.
Use what he gave you, and if that's not what you got, that's okay. But how would someone assess if they have that gift, and then could they come to you to help develop that gift?
Oh, most certainly. I've been teaching an energy healing class, and it's donation based. That way, no one gets turned away according to whether or not they could pay. Because if you have it in your heart that you want to help another human being and you want to learn this, or you want to be a part of it, I've had, people who are 17, 18-year-olds who, may give me $1. I've had other people who'll give me a candle or a scarf. I've had people put $30 in the little basket. It doesn't matter. And I try not to look to see who does what. I have a little box. You just put it in there. And it would be a 3-hour long class. And what I would teach people is first how to get a sense of their own energy and then to feel that coming out of their hands. When we think too much, because this is one of the things we certainly do. I remember when the doctor first asked me, "What did you do?" I'm like, "Well, I did what you told me to do." And he said, "What were you thinking?" I wasn't thinking anything.
I was just doing what you said.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the thing, is that I have the ability to not think. And my husband would tell you I can be very thoughtless at times. So, I have the ability to not think. Then he says, "What did you visualize?" I didn't visualize anything. I felt. So what I teach is, it's physical for me. Now, it's physical for me. It might be seen for you. I'm a kinesthetic healer. If I touch you long enough, after 3 minutes, I know what's going on in you. My teacher, Rosa Bruyere, can look at the aura and she can see it. I don't see as much. If it's something, and I'll be honest with you, if it's something that could kind of shock me, I hear, you don't often admit to hearing voices, but I will hear a voice tell me it's this. So often, because breast cancer is something that can jar every woman, it doesn't matter who you are, I'll hear a voice say, "No, that's breast cancer, Liz." Very soft, enough to all go, "Oh, fine." Now, I will tell you, with being what my nature is that if I felt it, I might go like that, or if I saw it, I might, I'm very visceral in all of my emotions. But to hear a very soft, gentle voice tell me it's that, I'll be like, okay. And then I go to work. So there it is. What do you feel? What do you see? There are healers who taste. They can touch a person, and all of a sudden they'll get a taste in their mouth. Now we know there's dogs.
I was about to ask, are we licking hands or what are we doing?
No, literally, you can be next to them and you're, wow, I have a funny taste in my mouth. So what happens over time is you get this sensation of like, That's what that feels like. So what people want to know is this list. Cancer looks like this, or feels like this. It's like, no, what do you read? And after time, it will be like, that's that. I'm not going to run my hand over something. I have this pain. And a lot of people, do I? And it's illegal for me to diagnose, by the way. So I don't. And so what I'll say is, energetically, your energy feels like that's muscular. People want to know if they have this, 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 this. And I'll feel it. And a lot of times I'll feel it in my own body. And some people will sense it, some people will hear it. So you have to go with whatever is your lead sensation. And that's a beginning for everybody.
And then as that gift gets stronger,
As
more
it,
developed.
what it is this, and this is how the metaphor that I use. If you had a full load of laundry, but all you had was 1 cup of water and a thimble full of detergent, could you clean that? No. So what the energy healer has to do is develop 50 gallons of water and a full cup of detergent. So literally, it's not so much just you feel it. Can you clean it? Can you fix it? So my whole drive these last few years, 10, 12 years, is increase my energy. I'll work on 10 people in a row. And people will say, are you tired? I go, absolutely not. I never get tired. Why? I was taught by my teacher, Rosen Bruyere, keep my feet grounded. Keep the bottoms of my feet are like suction cups. So when you felt my hands, that's what my feet feel like. So it's not just my hands, it's running through my whole body. So I do daily practices. I do Qigong, I do Hindu squats, I do Falun Gong, I do breathing exercises, and I do prayer work every day to build up my energy field.
And that's before you see anyone else.
That's before I see anyone else. And at night I study. Whoever comes to me, I study their disease. So I've literally learned about a whole bevy of things by whatever comes in the door.
Have felt from someone. Wow. I want you to tell us 2 things before we have to go. After the 6 years of the study at Children's Memorial was up, what was the empirical outcome?
So now when you go to hospitals, you see that there are integrative programs almost in every hospital. When I started, there was not.
Excellent.
What happened is everyone was watching to see what was going to happen at Children's Memorial. We literally were the very beginning of it, and everybody was like, no one really wanted to have their reputation ruined by saying they went off the deep end, and they're talking to spirits and they're this and that, whatever they thought this was. And so when it came back, it turned into there are now energy healers in hospitals all over. So you have healing touch, you have Reiki, of which neither of those is what I do. But again, you have people who are dedicated. I was called up privately to go up to Cancer Treatment Centers of America privately to see somebody. They have a Reiki room there.
That's that other commercial.
Oh, sorry. That's right. That's that other commercial. They do a phenomenal job. I will give them credit. I really liked the way it felt there when I went there to treat this person.
I'm glad you said that because I always wondered with that commercial after seeing it.
About
5 years. I was like, I wonder.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
So I'm not working for the hospital. Someone heard about me and asked me to come in to treat them while they're staying off campus, and I go up there twice a week. And she's doing great, by the way. And they do a really, praise God is right. They do a wonderful job there. And so you have integrative programs everywhere. The biggest thing that happens to people who want to do energy healing is that they have doubt whether or not they're actually effective or whether or not so it's like an artistic skill. So they judge themselves really hard. That's the last thing you want to do. If you find yourself to be incapable, on anything actually, you go, there's more to know, there's more to do. You leave yourself open that way. There's more. I could learn more. I could be more instead of I'm not enough.
Our last question. How does someone get in touch with you for lessons and for healing?
I would give them my email. It's my name, lizchazen@gmail.com.
That's LIZCHAZEN.
@gmail.com.
Now, for those of you who turned to us a little late, I can say I felt the energy. This is not a game. This is for
No,
real.
it's not a game. Yeah.
After 20 years of honing your talent and having experienced cancer personally up close, I want to personally thank you because that's one of the most serious labors of love you can have. It's easy to do certain jobs where you go in 9 to 5, write a little paper, and go on home, even make a lot of money. But when you actually physically put your hands on someone and affect the turn of their lives,
It's sacred.
that's it.
It's sacred.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in this evening. This is the Straight No Chaser show on intellectualradio.com, an iHeart radio station. Thank you again, Liz. We'll be talking after the show. And tune in for Setting It Off at 7 o'clock. Dedicate yourselves to the truth, no matter the cost. Be safe, everyone. Have a great evening.